What if the most dangerous person in a house is not the one with power, money, or authority, but the one who cleans the rooms and learns the secrets no one thinks to hide? That question sits at the core of The Housemaid, a psychological thriller that quietly dismantles our assumptions about control, vulnerability, and morality. The Housemaid was written by Freida McFadden and published in 2022. McFadden is a practicing physician with a background in brain injury medicine, and that clinical understanding of human behavior and psychological fracture deeply informs her fiction. Rather than relying on spectacle or complex plotting, she builds tension through observation, manipulation, and the slow erosion of certainty. The novel emerged during a period when domestic thrillers were increasingly popular, yet it distinguishes itself by focusing not on overt danger, but on the invisible power dynamics that exist inside private spaces. At its surface, the story appears simple. A woman with a troubled past accepts a job as a live-in housemaid for a wealthy family. The house is beautiful, the neighborhood respectable, and the opportunity seems like a second chance. But almost immediately, the environment reveals itself as psychologically unstable. The employer behaves erratically. Rules shift without explanation. Small humiliations accumulate. The house, which should represent safety and order, becomes a controlled environment where reality itself feels unstable. This is where the novel's deeper tension begins. The Housemaid is not primarily about crime. It is about perception. Who gets believed? Who controls the narrative? Who appears fragile and who is actually dangerous? McFadden uses the confined domestic setting to explore how power hides behind politeness and how cruelty often wears the mask of normalcy. The protagonist's role as a servant places her in a paradoxical position. She is both invisible and intimately present. She sees everything, yet is assumed to understand nothing. Psychologically, the novel operates on a disturbing insight. People underestimate those they believe to be beneath them. The housemaid becomes a repository for secrets, frustrations, and private behaviors that the family would never reveal publicly. Over time, this creates a reversal. The person with the least social power gains the most informational power. This imbalance fuels the novel's growing unease and forces the reader to question where danger truly originates. As the narrative unfolds, McFadden introduces a second, more unsettling layer. Memory, identity, and self-control become unstable concepts. The protagonist is not simply reacting to abuse or manipulation. She is actively calculating, interpreting, and preparing. The story challenges the reader to confront an uncomfortable truth. Victimhood and agency can coexist. Suffering does not automatically imply innocence, and survival does not always look moral from the outside. Philosophically, The Housemaid examines how easily people outsource responsibility. The wealthy family assumes that money absolves them of ethical accountability. The system assumes that past mistakes define future worth. Society assumes that danger announces itself clearly. McFadden dismantles each of these assumptions one by one. The novel suggests that modern life rewards appearance over substance, comfort over truth, and control over empathy. The tension escalates not through sudden violence, but through psychological compression. Each interaction tightens the boundaries of what feels safe. Each revelation reframes previous events. The reader is placed in a constant state of cognitive reassessment, forced to ask whether their initial judgments were based on evidence or bias. This is one of the book's most effective strategies. It uses the reader's assumptions as part of the mechanism of suspense. By the final act, the novel no longer asks who is right or wrong. It asks something far more disturbing. What does justice look like when systems fail? When institutions protect the powerful? When truth is inconvenient? The resolution is deliberately unsettling, not because it shocks, but because it feels plausible. The story ends by leaving the reader with a lingering discomfort about how easily morality bends under pressure. The Housemaid resonates today because it reflects modern anxieties about class, trust, and psychological manipulation. It exposes how environments that appear safe can become instruments of control, and how those who are underestimated can become deeply dangerous when pushed beyond moral limits. It is a reminder that power is often invisible, and that the most carefully maintained homes may hide the most fragile ethical foundations. If this story made you question your assumptions about innocence, control, and survival, consider giving the video a like to help it reach others who enjoy psychological depth in fiction. Subscribe for more explorations of books that challenge how we see power and morality. And continue with the next video in the playlist to explore another story where appearances quietly collapse under pressure.